Hey guys, this is Ed from Mission Impossible, and with me I have Wyatt. And today we are going to be going through Atari 2600 games from Imagic. And yeah, we have a lot to do this time.
This is their whole library, right?
The whole library.
I remember when we streamed it, I thought it was all of them, but...
Yeah, this is all of them, and it's a whole lot.
Sure, yeah. I'm kind of surprised it is a lot, but I'm almost surprised there's not more from the studio overall.
Right.
Let's get into it. Atlantis. The first one.
Yes.
The one that's the same as the sequel, which we'll talk about in a second. Atlantis is... it's a unique game in that it's kind of just a standard space things are coming defense kind of game.
Sure.
But it has some quirks with having very limited... You can't really aim so much as you have to decide where you're shooting
left, right, or middle.
Yeah, you get more for shooting from the sides, so you have to get really good at diagonals. It's kind of unique in that way. I thought it was solid, though. I really like... This is something that I can't really judge it and all these by because they all have it. The color, it's so really cool.
Yeah, it's very vibrant.
They loved using every color possible in every game.
Yes, absolutely.
Which I can appreciate. So I'm going to put Atlantis there.
Right.
And you know what? Real quick, I'm going to put Atlantis 2 also right there. Because that is the same game.
Yeah, the only thing is it's harder. I mean,
it's harder. You get lower points, so it's...
Right.
But it's the same.
It's hard to rate it differently, I guess.
It's hard to... I can't put it above, and I can't really put it that far below.
No. I mean, it's harder. You can't really judge it for that. That was the point.
Yeah, it was supposed to be contest. Yeah. Right? So.
Atlantis is one of those, like a couple of these others that are just staple Imagic games. And
thusly staple to the 2600?
Yeah, for the most part. And I'm gonna go a little higher. I think I'm gonna go with an A. I'm also gonna do Atlantis 2, might as well.
We don't necessarily, here's a quick side-by-side of the two of them. And if you can tell the difference, just block out the scores. Yeah. Let me know if you can tell the difference, because I sure can't without that little score number thing.
The score is definitely a thing. Or you
that's
can weigh the
difference.
cartridge.
Yeah.
Right?
All right, everyone, at home, weigh your Atlantis and Atlantis 2 cartridges for us.
Yes, exactly.
And then you'll know.
Exactly. All right. Next up is Cosmic Arc.
The unofficial official sequel to Atlantis.
Right.
I'm going to still stick with B for it, but I'm going to put it a little higher than Atlantis. I thought that I had fun playing it, and we played it for a while.
We did play it
just
for a while.
because we got into it, I think.
Yes.
The simplicity of it, but the evolution of, slowly adding, like, turrets that come and get you over that time limit, where you're trying to abduct little alien guys, or save them? I'm not really sure what you're supposed to actually be doing.
On the side are crazy
fast. Those lasers are killer. You just can't...
You're not dodging it.
No.
You just have to... I mean,
you just have to
coming
know.
Out. Yeah. You just don't want to be there. Yeah. No be there.
No be there.
Exactly.
No be.
I'm gonna... I'm probably gonna say, for me, because I think it is a better game than Atlantis, not quite S tier for me, but I definitely think that we had a lot more fun playing it. So yeah, Atlantis I would say is kind of similar in a way to like Missile Command in a little bit because of the different areas where you can shoot from and stuff. So, it's not as good in my opinion. But Cosmic Arc I thought was pretty good.
Now, of the Imagic games, our next one, Demon Attack, I think is going to be my first A.
Okay.
It is, again, your guy at the bottom shooting up at stuff.
Yes.
Every other Atari game, as in, like, of every two Atari, every other one is kind of like that. This one stands out because of Imagic's visual style and the uniqueness of the enemies. The fact that they continually change. Like, there's way more enemies in this that actually do different things than I think in any other game that we played that is like this.
Sure.
That gives it a huge step up for me. And it also reminds me that another thing Imagic had going for it was their commercials, I think, by far were the best.
Yeah.
Or at least
they're pretty cool.
Their average commercial is better than almost all of the
Activision commercials are pretty good.
Yes, but I'd say they're on par or better than most of the Activision, or close, but definitely above the original Atari.
The Atari ones they just kind of come across as cheesy.
They tried to have a brand, and I can appreciate that, but I just didn't like the brand they were trying to build with it.
Yeah, it was more family oriented.
And you could feel that.
Well, I think with the, we don't have to go on a diatribe on the commercial stuff, but I think they were trying to be everything to everybody, and that's the problem. And I think, when the Magic commercials came out, they knew their target audience. They were like, we're going to go for these people and go the quirkier the better.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. Just like their games, they took a risk and they made something unique. Right. And I think Imagic really stands above because of that.
I gotta say, Demon Attack is one of my favorite games on the platform. It's definitely a top 10 game for me. I love the enemies, like you were mentioning. I'm not that great at the game, but visually and the fact that the enemies break apart and stuff, it definitely makes me want to play it more. Just because it is varied. Those ones that have the lasers, and it's a very, very cool game. Definitely visually amazing.
I'm gonna always remember Demon Attack. I think it's part of it. Yes. We, in filming this slightly later than our stream this time, due to some scheduling stuff with some trips, slightly later, like, a day or two or so.
Sure,
anyway,
we'll go with that.
A number of days later, Demon Attack is one I don't need a refresher on because I remember it intrinsically. Some of these other ones I had to think about as we were looking at them, but I think Imagic's style in their commercial for this game was great, and their style in the game really sets it apart.
Now, whether they're demons or not, that's the deal. They're birds.
They're kind of demon birds, which is sort of
a little weird.
The demon in the commercials doesn't look anything like any of those demons.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been Bird Attack or something. It would have been just fine. But,
but
still. Demon Attack is a cooler name.
Yes.
But they don't look like demons.
They do not. Not really.
Not what we think of as demons. So
Dragonfire. Ooh, Dragonfire was a good one if I remember. Dragonfire and Wing War were the two dragon-related ones. It's interesting that they kind of went to that well more than once. Yes. That's not something that, I guess Atari dips in some of those wells a lot, but Dragonfire and Wing War are kind of different.
Yes, very different.
Yeah.
Well, one you're playing the dragon, one you're playing the guy.
You're fighting a dragon. Yes. But Dragonfire, being the one where you fight the dragon.
Well, a fight. More like just avoid.
Well, you run. I love the animation also of the guy run. He looks
and
like
also
he's
when he gets hit. And when he gets hit, the sound effect is really, really good.
It's really good. It's another game where their presentation, I think, really puts it a step above. That's a game I want to get good at if I was going to play it again.
Right.
Because that's another one I think we played for a little while because it just continually, it brings you in. It really makes you want to get better at it. And I think that's a plus for it.
Yeah, for me, probably no surprise here. Out of the Imagic games, when I think Imagic, I immediately think of Dragonfire.
Right.
This is one that I played the hell out of as a kid. And I got really good at the game. Playing it now, there's a certain amount of muscle memory where you're like, oh, I remember this. And I was running around doing well, but I remember as a kid, I didn't keep track of anything.
But you were killing it.
I was as a kid, yeah. So it's one of those that I always go back to. It's just fun. I mean, who doesn't love picking up treasure? It's just like it doesn't get old. I mean,
part of my job. I'm a treasure hunter by trade.
Exactly,
really.
By trade. There
if when we get business cards, that's what it's gonna say. That's all
treasure
I'm saying.
Treasure.
But Dragonfire is definitely a unique one. One that I think is the most unique, if I'm remembering correctly, on this list. I might take that back later in the list. Don't quote me on this. Don't get in the comments and be mad at me because I changed my mind a couple of times. But Fathom is, I think, the most unique game on this list. Because this is the one where you're playing as a dolphin and a bird attempting to save a mermaid. And that sounds strange, and in execution, it's just a surprisingly fun experience that is not like literally any other game on this system, I think.
Any other game?
Or, any other game.
Yeah.
Like, there are games where...
How do you describe this in terms of another game?
There's not much that you can do. I know that one that came out not too long ago was like... Stray came out, and you're a cat.
Yeah.
Playing as an animal, like, actually as the animal...
Yes.
Is not terribly common, honestly.
No.
You're playing as an animal in a heightened way.
Right. And this way you're playing as two different animals.
Two different animals.
Tag teaming.
But you're not doing anything that is like you're swimming or you're flying.
Yeah.
And you're trying to avoid things, but you feel like you're just playing as these creatures trying to help something else out. And it is one of the more unique gaming experiences I have had in a very long time. And it's stuck with me. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to put that up there in S as well. Because... They went for it, and I think that should be applauded.
This was a sleeper for me. I had never played it. I had never really heard of it before. And once you get into it and you realize what you're trying to do, it is a solid game.
Yeah.
I have said this. I said this in the stream. When you have more than one screen, more than one thing going on the 2600, that to me was a major differentiator. Like when we've seen this before with like Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's cool because you're doing one thing over here and then you move over here.
The simple act of having two things to do that you're juggling that both are fun.
Yep.
I think that's the thing is I've discussed on this show tons of times. Oh, this is a really unique game. Sad that it's not fun, but I'll rank it well because it tries something. Yeah. This tried something and was fun.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it was.
Take a note, game developers.
Yes. So next up we have
Firefighter, which I didn't play as much. I was doing my calisthenics. My Japanese in the morning.
We're working out with Wyatt portion of our live stream.
Yep. It's a good portion. I hear it's a big hit with the fans.
Yeah, exactly.
It did look kind of fun, though. And it seemed interesting.
You have to...
But I won't lie, it's the least of the games that I saw.
Yeah.
And of the ones that, I didn't feel the need or desire to play it, I guess. It's a serviceable game.
I'm not going to disagree with you. It was okay. The idea of it was okay, but the way they implemented it was a little weird.
It didn't make a ton of sense.
Well, it's like the whole extension of the ladder and raising and lowering the ladder was not obvious at all. It was, I think someone in the chat told me how to do it because I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? It's like, oh, you got to retract the ladder, then move it. And then it was just, as a concept, it could have been okay, but it just really kind of fell flat.
Firefighting could make a fun game, and I'm sure there are firefighter games that are decent now.
Right.
But, I don't know, just didn't really sell anything for me.
Right.
Laser Gates, which we played two versions of. Yes. The 8-bit.
We came back and we played the 8-bit version.
At the end of the stream.
Yes.
And Laser Gates on the 2600, as you were talking about, isn't as far off from some of those.
No, they actually did a really good job with it.
And I got to applaud them for that. But I still think of the games... It's a solid game. It's definitely a B, but it's not really a game that I would come back to, I don't think. At least not over the ones that are above it.
Right. I like Laser Gates, granted, and I mentioned this on the stream a bit, I'm used to the 8-bit version, which has a lot more detail and stuff. But the 2600 version is definitely serviceable. I would rank it a little bit higher. I mean, I guess same rank as you, but it was, good, not as great as the other ones, I don't think.
Just know that there's a high B.
Yeah, that's true. It's a high B there.
Just everyone know that one's higher than mine.
Yes, exactly.
In some capacity.
Well, but yours is the highest B there, so I don't know if you want to keep it there or not.
I do think it was...
Do you like it better than Atlantis and Cosmic Arc?
More than Atlantis. I don't think as much as Cosmic Arc.
Fair enough.
I think Cosmic Arc had a little more going on for it.
Fair enough.
But yeah, solid game though. Still, definitely one to come back to, and I see why people really fondly remember it. I've heard a lot. I've heard of Laser Gates, so that's one of those games that comes up over time.
Sure.
Let's see. We're about halfway through, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So just at the halfway point here, I just want to throw in again that looking at these rankings, Imagic is doing pretty well. You know, on your screen and mine, on both of our lists.
Oh, yeah.
Imagic has, I think, brought something to the space that was this classic era of gaming that not a lot of other companies could have. And that's what I'm starting to just, as we're getting partway through it, just I want to, again, applaud them. I don't know, I think we talked about it briefly. I don't know why they don't exist anymore for a variety of reasons, I'm sure.
Right.
But I think imagination like this, given the name and everything too, is something that I think even modern games could really take note of. Trying something, adding a lot of visual flair and not just going with what is established by the other big companies at the time. So I got to applaud them for that.
So you would say you would like Imagic as a company, one of the third-party games, or parties on the 2600?
I would say so. Okay. At least so far. I really liked a lot of Activision's stuff, but just I remember so much of these, even after time.
So speaking of liking, be sure to like the video. Really appreciate it. Get for the old YouTube algorithm and such. But
let us know what you think of Imagic on the whole. Always give us your tier list. And also, this is important for us going forward. Let us know what your favorite third-party company is, because so far mine's Imagic.
Really? Over Activision?
I think so.
Wow. Okay.
I'll maybe revisit that later.
That's interesting.
I think Activision had a lot more output, but there were much fewer misses in this list of games than I think the average was for Activision.
Fair enough.
Given that they were making so many, some of those did feel a little bit more like Atari games that were, basic. Yeah. Maybe as I remember more of these, maybe I'll have to
I would agree.
Revisit.
There were a lot of, we kind of boiled a lot of the Imagic games down to, it's just, this game with, vertically versus horizontally. It was a lot of the same game loop, just with a different skin on it. And I agree. Whereas these are very distinct games. They're not just a retread of a different game.
Even the ones that have a similar style, like later on we'll talk about Solar Storm versus Demon Attack. Both little ship at the bottom, shoot up. But they don't feel the same. And that's impressive. Anyway, on to Moonsweeper. Moonsweeper was kind of... we gave him a lot of praise, and now I'm back to... And this one's the one that's kind of like a lot of other games.
Right.
But to give them credit, it was visually very, very interesting and unique. It felt very kinetic also, where a lot of those other games start off very slow or a little confusingly. Even though this one started off like you have to hit the planets to go to the planets and save miners, which very common theme in a lot of these old video games. Miners are always in danger. I guess they just have a dangerous job, so and
don't shoot them. You want to collect them.
Always good to not shoot miners.
Yes. Just remember, kids. Public service announcement. Don't shoot miners.
I want that on a t-shirt. Just a miner giving a thumbs up. Don't shoot miners.
Anyway, so one of the things that they did that is interesting that I also was very common, or I saw in a game I used to play, it's called Buck Rogers, Planet of Zoom, and to where when it does the scrolling thing, because when you're going on, it was kind of like that isometric kind of view, kind of a behind the player camera thing. They needed to be able to show that you're moving, and so they used like that horizontal line that keeps changing so you can see the speed as you're going and stuff like that. It definitely is very good for showing that speed. So I thought that was a neat thing. I don't know if this one came out before Planet of Zoom or not. But
not sure. But I gave it a pretty high B because, yes, it is kind of like other games, but I think it did, again, have that flair that makes it stand apart.
Yeah, it was okay to me. There was, the graphics notwithstanding, I just, it's not one I could see going back to really. I'm gonna probably put it at a higher C. It's just more of one of the weaker titles in my opinion. But
sure, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
No Escape. A stack of skeletons attempts to murder a child with a baseball. And his only defense is not the baseball, but the ceiling tiles.
That was a very interesting concept because it was kind of had some breakout elements to it.
Another reverse breakout.
Kind of like
not really reverse, but sort of.
Well, yeah, because you're
still destroying, but you're not. That's not the goal. Is not to destroy the ceiling. The ceiling is just your ammo to destroy skeletons. So it was a cool twist on that formula.
Yeah.
I actually did have fun with it. I thought
it was interesting,
definitely interesting. So I'm gonna put that also in B, a little higher than Moonsweeper.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. It was just cool.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting, and the fact that you could do a bank shot that you're doing, it's like I think someone in the audience or the chat was like, I didn't know you could do a bank shot. So
you learn something new every day.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it at a B because like we said, they definitely did something different. The fact that you can't just shoot the skeletons because they'd reproduce or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So you had to shoot them indirectly, which was kind of an
it's a giant
concept.
Ball of calcium, not a baseball.
There you go.
It's just, oh my goodness, they reproduce asexually.
I guess.
A well-known fact about skeletons.
Okay.
There's another t-shirt idea. They reproduce asexually, just a picture of a skeleton.
Okay, man.
What?
You know what? No, that's all right.
What do you mean, okay?
Okay, man. You wear the shirt. I'm not going to wear that shirt.
I'm out here giving them gold ideas for both t-shirts and for commentary.
So should we do that for merch? We'll have a shirt, we'll have a Mission Impossible, and then have the...
Don't shoot minors.
They don't shoot minors. If you're like, what?
It's great.
I think that if we reached meme level with it, maybe. But just mentioning that on one episode is a little odd.
Just make it a meme then. Say it a lot.
Yeah, we gotta start doing hashtags or something. Hashtag don't shoot minors.
It's a good hashtag. Hashtag don't shoot minors.
It'd be funny if it were we're a trending topic. You're like, what the hell is this?
It's an important topic.
Yes.
Minors get shot far too often.
Okay.
That is something I genuinely, technically agree with.
Okay.
Everyone is shot too often.
Everyone is shot too often.
Sure.
Honest, yeah.
But don't shoot minors. They work so hard.
Here we go.
Quick step. The never-ending battle.
Squirrel versus kangaroo.
The never-ending battle of squirrels and kangaroos on trampolines.
Yes.
They, I guess, are in a trampoline factory?
Apparently.
Perhaps?
I don't know.
I'm giving it more lore than it deserves. It was okay. It's kind of a fun little adventure. I'm gonna put, actually, that's a high C.
Okay.
It was interesting. A fun time playing with you once we figured out we could.
Co-op is, or not co-op, but two-player.
Two-player is key.
Yes.
That being said, it was still just kind of a weird step around game, and I don't think I'd play it a bunch of times.
Though.
Sure, and there's a lot to be said for this. This is a high C that I think means something, but
I'm actually gonna.
It's another one.
Put a high B for me.
Oh,
I thought it was fun, especially once we kind of got into a rhythm on it, and it was neat.
I will. Yeah, I'm gonna bring back my old adage. It would actually make a pretty good Mario Party minigame.
There you go.
All of you guys jumping around and changing time. That might actually be a Mario Party minigame.
There you go.
Now that I think about it.
It's kind of like Cubert in a way.
Sure.
A two-player Cubert in that you're hitting a thing and changing the color.
Just without other enemies besides just another Cubert, basically. But
that'd be interesting if you had you know how they did the Pac-Man Battle Royale?
Yeah.
Imagine if you had 3 Cuberts.
Cubert Battle Royale.
Yeah. And then you're trying to
put
change
Cubert
all
in
your
Fortnite.
Colors. There you go. They might already be in there, actually, to be honest. They put every kind of skin known to man in that game.
Anyway, Futurama.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
It would be interesting, though, if you could somehow... Oh man, I might have to try that. Yeah, Cubert Battle Royale.
Stay tuned.
Yes, exactly.
Stay tuned to Mission Impossible for updates on Cubert 2.
Yeah.
2 Cuberts.
They actually have multiple. They actually did have a Cubert cubes. Cubert's cube, I think.
What would be one step above? Cubert Tesseracted.
Yeah, Cubert cube. Oh no, it's cube. It's already third.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, go ahead.
Q2. 1000.
There you go.
Did they do that? No, probably not. So. Riddle of the Sphinx, I remember vaguely, thought it was fine.
that was pretty phoned in, man. That was fine. I remember it.
Look, I remember it. I've played it once before, actually, to test it. And in both instances, it's like, oh, there's a lot that's going on here. None of it's super intuitive. Right. None of it's all that visually interesting. And it's not, to me, super fun. So it's like, cool idea. They were trying something. I like that.
Right.
Not the game I'm coming back to for Imagic for.
It definitely reminds me a lot of like Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Bird of the Phoenix game or what I can't remember what it's called. And the other one where it's isometric kind of.
Yeah,
like
it was kind of a combination of those two.
Yeah, kind of like Zaxxon or whatever. I can't remember the name of that one. But anyway, I thought it was interesting because you had the whole collect this here, take it here, do this and do that. Now there's a lot of you got to know what you're doing. Talk. The chat. People in the chat and say, oh, you need to take this thing to that thing and that to. Without playing the game, really, you don't really have that knowledge. But I love the concept of that. It's an adventure game, which is that's kind of part of the Desert Falcon. That was the game I was thinking of. That was very much a Zaxxon game without being Zaxxon. That certain angle for isometric and you can go up and down and stuff. So this one wasn't that, but it was that way in theme. It was like in the desert and you got the guys that it's not obvious on who you're supposed to talk
interact
to,
with
or whatever
versus hurt. Yeah,
that's one I could see coming back to try to figure out what you're actually trying to do.
Okay.
So I'm going to probably put it in the B category, especially since, it definitely had a lot more going on. As at this point, a lot of these games, when they start getting to a point where they've got more meat to them, they've got more than just shoot bad guy.
That's true.
And that
I like that.
I really like that. And obviously, when the game first came out, that was not even hardly a concept. I mean, Adventure did kind of push that boundary on saying, okay, you got an item, you got to take it here, you got to do a thing. I think with this one, it was a lot more. You have an inventory. You have this thing. You actually have more stuff going on.
Stuff is happening.
Yes.
And that's a fair reason to appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's just not a game that I found very fun despite my enjoyment of other adventure games.
Fair enough.
But as a stepping stone to that, I can appreciate it. Yeah. What is this next one? It's very small font.
Yeah, it's Shootin Gallery.
Shootin Gallery.
Yes.
That was just a shooting gallery, right?
That's all it was.
Yeah. But it was kind of a fun shooting gallery.
I guess.
It was one of the more fun of those kinds that we played, just because there was a lot of variety to the things you could shoot.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Carnival was the one we played on the ColecoVision, where it's like, it's pretty much the same game.
I can't give it super high because of that, but I like the visuals. Yeah. I did think it was kind of fun. I'm going to give it a moderate C, probably below Riddle of the Sphinx, because it was visually pretty cool, but it didn't exactly set the genre forward or anything.
I mean, I guess the Shootin Gallery, is that a genre? I mean, I guess it is, but...
It is at this time? I guess it's not anymore.
I mean, I guess they still have them at, like, carnivals and stuff.
Sure, but...
And that's what they were going for.
Sure, and they nailed it. Their execution of it definitely feels like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you're limited. I mean, it is what it is. You can't really... I mean, yes, you could do some more craziness with it, but, complicating things. For me, I mean, it was probably one of the lowest here because it didn't have zero interest playing it.
It didn't have as much of their creativity that I like from a lot of the other games.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like a kind of a phoned-in title. I mean, to be honest, it just was like, hey, you want to make a game, just a shooting gallery? Okay, it's like because there's like not much thought.
And then they just did that. They were just like, and call it Shootin Gallery. They wore it on their sleeves, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty on the nose, but I don't know. I felt like it was sort of, why did this need to exist?
Sure. Sky Patrol.
Now that one, it was a prototype.
Yes.
So we fired it up. It was playable, kinda.
Right.
But it didn't have anything to do.
No.
You're in a hot air balloon, so it's really kind of an NA.
I'm not, I
guess it goes into D.
I'm going to put it in D, but understand that this is a D of did not finish.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't a game that we played. It was the idea of a game that was eventually maybe going to be something, but they just never got around to it.
Yeah, I mean, the visuals look cool and stuff, but you can't judge it based on that.
And so I'm not going to really judge it at all. I'm just going to put it in the D because every time I try and add a new column, it goes wrong.
Yes, but technically it would be NA, I guess. Because it's just, you can't really judge it because it's not done. So
Solar Storm, I really loved the visuals of. I just have an innate desire to put it in A because I enjoyed the idea that it's not just that, you're not just getting hurt, it's every time an enemy passes you, the temperature is rising.
Yes.
And you're trying to beat them back so the temperature doesn't get too high.
Yes.
That's kind of cool. It also gives you, kind of a cost benefit of I can shoot that guy or shoot these several guys and keep the temperature much lower, but this,
Trolley problem?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I really, really liked the visuals on
it was
the
so
flames
cool,
and stuff, and I was going up and stuff. And it was a
one
basic
of their,
shooter with more stuff.
One of their most masterful uses of color, too, because of that.
Right.
Everything felt very alive and moving, and kinetic is a word I would give to Imagic as a whole, and this game definitely has that.
Sure. I thought it was...
And not so much... Just real quick. Go ahead and rank it while I'm saying this, but... None of these games have very much annoying flashing or weird visual things.
That's true.
Despite how seemingly complex a lot of their stuff is.
Yeah, there was no flickering or anything.
No, and I gotta put extra props on them for that because that's really cool.
Now, one of the things that is interesting kind of about that is, watching the stream again, a lot of it that doesn't come through the stream because there is flicker, but we just don't see it because it's not every frame.
Right.
And so there's a certain amount of frames that get lost. And so it's kind of frustrating watching. It's like, wait, well, we were shooting stuff and just, looking at the back of the stream.
Right. Yeah.
But the important thing is that when you're playing it, you get to, you're seeing that. So, on the stream it didn't come through, but yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of visual noise. There wasn't a lot of just badness as far as
there's not viscera covering my screen.
Exactly.
Distracting me from actually playing the game.
Yeah, and the flashing that, if you look at a lot of the old Atari games, it was just the flickering and a lot of the stuff was just made it kind of unbearable in a lot of ways, so.
I can only imagine
Pac-Man.
I'm only imagining if you were photosensitive.
Oh yeah. The epilepsy warrants.
The whole damn console needed a warning.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Star Voyager. What are you doing?
Trying to remember Star Voyager.
Star Raiders. It was Star Raiders again.
Again?
Yes.
Like Moonsweeper?
No, like Star Raiders.
Star Raiders.
Yes, so that was let's pull it up here a little.
Alright, we're back. Star Voyager. Yeah.
There's a problem when you haven't done a stream in a while. A lot of bees in there. You need like more rows there. I mean, it was. I feel like what they took what Star Raiders and Star Master did,
and Star some other thing.
And Starship to a certain extent, and they did it a little bit. It seemed a little bit more simple. They didn't do as much stuff, and a little bit more arcadey, I guess. But it was just kind of like. Almost like this genre of game, a first-person space shooter, which is what it is, let's make our own. And it almost seems like a Me Too kind of checkbox thing. When there is a little bit more of like when you're flying through portals and stuff. That was kind of cool, but it really was kind of, again, when you're just putting out your version of that game, it's a little, as I said, it's kind of Me Too.
It was also sort of, you had way less energy in this one than a lot of those games.
Sure.
So you ended up like running out of energy and dying more often, I think. But
visually, I thought it was good.
Visually, very cool.
Yeah.
The different colors make it both feel like space, and I know that's what they were going for, but a lot of them also feel like, I don't know, when it's blue, it feels like you're underwater a little bit.
Right.
It just gives it kind of a dynamic feel that the other levels are different than the ones before, even though it's just colors and the same enemies. But I thought that was neat.
For me, I like those kind of games. In general, I'd rather play those than, a lot of the other shooter games, just because there's absolutely more stuff going on.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, so I ranked it as a high C.
Yeah.
Still a high C for me.
Leave it for now. Go with your instinct.
Yeah.
I am going to jump right ahead into Subterranea.
Okay.
I liked Subterranea. It had a boss, kind of.
Yep.
And it had this very interesting visual style and this very cool thing of just going deeper into the earth.
Yeah. Again, it has the multiple screens, different things going on.
Feels also like, because that thing runs away at the beginning, like you're going to fight that boss and actually eventually get down there and win the game.
Sure.
Which is a thing I can say has always bugged me about a lot of these different games, is it's a
no end.
Win till you lose.
Yeah.
As opposed to just actually winning or failing. You either win or fail, and then you can keep trying till you win. In that one, it's like, well, you'll always eventually lose.
Yeah. You gotta realize, this is coming out of the arcade era.
Oh, of course.
Arcade games aren't meant to be beaten.
But I really like that they were.
In that time.
And what I'm saying is, I like that they were bucking the mold because of that.
Right.
They were bucking the trend of the time of just doing that and giving you something that felt like, I am working to fight that big thing again.
Sure.
So I like it.
Yeah, it was good. I definitely feel like, again, multiple screens, multiple things going on. For me, I'm going to probably go, let's see, do I want to B or A? I'm going to go with a very high B. It was fun. It was definitely interesting. I love it when you can, go down and you keep going down and stuff, and it's just cool.
It is cool.
All right.
And I love, again, the little boss guy with it looked like a big dancing goblin evil guy.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, a goblin with like spider legs or something.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on. I remember looking at him.
Yeah.
So, trick shot. Billiards.
Yep.
Sort of thing. I can't give this one too high because I don't think we ever did very well at it, and it was a pretty simple game.
Sure.
But to be honest, it was pretty fun for what it was.
I think it did what it set out to do. So
I'm going to give it a middle B.
Just right in the pack there. Just
somewhere. Well, I guess I could put it at the top of C, but
yeah,
I think I had more fun with that than like the more basic Atlantis and Star Voyager, which is cool, but it's like a lot of other things. Trickshot, I think they really nailed the aesthetic. You know where you are, you know what you're doing.
Right.
And overall, the physics of it make enough sense that you could eventually get good at it. So
right.
I've got to give it props for actually succeeding at what it was trying to do.
Fair enough. For me, yeah, it's got to go in the C category for me. While it did what it was trying to do, I have zero interest in playing that again. I mean, it was cool, I guess, and I like pool and stuff, but I guess for me, playing it on a computer has never really been interesting to me. They've had pool games out forever, but it's one of those things. Unlike, like, say, bowling or tennis or golf, especially, those translate a lot better to me
to full games.
Yeah. Yes, you can do all the mechanics with it. I just never seem to have fun with them on a computer.
I think part of it is the simpler nature of it. I played a lot of and I'm still actually playing through. I'm eventually going to play more of the Yakuza video games.
Okay.
Where there's a bunch of random stuff to do, side activities that can distract you for hours.
Kind of like GTA kind of thing?
Sort of, but in a very different kind of way to GTA. There's a lot more depth to a lot of those things, and it encourages you to do them a lot more. Because in GTA, you know, you can do them, but the encouragement just comes from they're fun also.
Okay.
But I guess the reason I bring it up is I think pool lands somewhere near fishing in the idea of having it as a full game. Even though I really love fishing, I would never buy a fishing video game, right?
Sure.
Or at least most of them, if there's not something else going on.
Right.
Like, unless there's another mechanic on top of the fishing.
Fair enough.
But fishing, when it's a really good mechanic in a game where you have other things to do, it's like I'm all over it. Great. Yes. Because I know I can go and do other things, and I know I have that option, so I'm choosing to fish, and it feels fun.
You know what it is? It's like being a fisherman versus being like a commercial or being paid to fish. It's a different story. When it's your hobby,
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, but when it's your job, you got to go catch X amount of fish.
Yeah, or like
it's different. Yeah, it's like, it becomes less fun.
Yeah, or all the Sega Pro Bass games where it's like, oh great, I have to catch bigger. Yeah, it doesn't feel as good.
No,
but pool in Yakuza, I had a lot of fun with doing the trick shots.
Okay.
But here, even though I gave it a B, I totally see what you mean.
Yeah.
When it's a full game, why are you doing it? You can do so many other things.
And maybe it's because I play pool in real life, and I think I feel like I'd rather just go, if you want to play pool, let's go play pool. Whereas like with golf, or other games, those are a lot harder.
There's a lot more.
There's a lot more physical aspects. Like, let's go golf and like get up at 6 a.m. It's like, yeah, no, I'll play a golf game though with you. No problem. I'm all over that.
And Mario will be there.
Yeah, exactly. And I just. Pool for me is never really. I mean, it translates well. It does. For me, it just doesn't feel like something I just want to do.
Totally.
Okay, next.
Wing War, definitely an A. We are rounding out with, I think, one of their better games. I need to put it pretty high because even in the simplified form that it was here, this game is fun. And I wanted to do more with it.
Yeah.
And especially after playing the 8-bit version, it's like, that version, obviously I'm not ranking it based on that version, but it gives you the context of what they're going for also.
Right. Yes.
And it feels really cool.
It was really
fight dragons.
Yes.
You're a dragon fighting and claiming the souls or gems or power or vague video game thing of other dragons.
This unobtainium from the other dragons.
And I will obtain all of it.
Yeah, it was really weird for me because playing the 8-bit version and playing that a lot, and I saw some screenshots of this because, I never had, this was PAL only. They didn't release it in North America for some reason. It was really kind of like, well, that's a completely different game. Seeing a screenshot, it's like, oh, that's a totally different game. Yes, but it was interesting to me to see that it was born out of the other game, and it was like, okay, this is maybe too big because all the different screens in the other one. They just, it would be really interesting to talk to the developer of the game to say, what was your thought process there? Because the idea was, seeing like the ColecoVision or the 8-bit version of the game, this seemed to be what they were really trying to go for. But it was like, okay, so how do we take that and scale it back? And in some ways, they actually did some things that were very different, like the water dragons and stuff, which actually look like more of a traditional water dragon.
Watery, more.
And it was really cool, and that really surprised me because I was like, hey, the little thing that drops the essence thing, it's like that looks very much like the way they did in the 8-bit version, and so it was like, okay, it's different, but not.
But you can put the pieces
different.
Together.
Yeah, you can see that it was sort of like to maybe a light version.
It's the same prompt with different effect.
There you go. That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, I have to give it an A. And God, I think I'm going to go with the high A. And it was very interesting. We didn't have a lot of time to play it. And to be honest, I think I was more itching to show you the 8-bit version.
Right, absolutely.
Because it was like...
Which is reasonable.
Yeah, it was
the 8-bit
so
version is
cool.
incredible.
Yeah, it was so cool. Again, I don't think that was one that was actually released out. No,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it was maybe only. Correct me in the comments, but I think it might have actually only got a real release for the ColecoVision, and it was. I mean, it definitely has a lot of like the joust elements of that, and there might be a multiple player. We didn't get into that if there was
there's definitely a lot to it though, and it felt like you could really sink your teeth into more if you needed to.
Yeah.
So,
and as you guys know, we like dragons, so that's always a
big.
Yeah. So
shout out dragons.
Yes, exactly.
Blue Dragons Horde represent.
Yeah, there you go. So. There you go. So looking at our list, it looks similar.
It's got a lot of...
It's got the same similar shape.
Yes, just a few more...
Yours is very bell curvy. Mine's a little bit more, shaped more towards the top. Not a surprise. I definitely like Imagic. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say better than Activision, but that's a pretty bold claim in my mind.
Sure, but it's one that is not unentertainable.
No.
That's the thing I think is interesting about these games is, I definitely feel that, but I can also see I could be convinced either way.
Right.
But the fact that there is an argument to be made about Imagic despite its smaller library,
right,
and the fact that Activision still exists in some form and Imagic is has either been bought and dismantled, so it doesn't, and it exists in an entirely different form.
Yeah, I think we read the Activision
but this was a crew of people that were, I think, very passionate about delivering something on the limited system that they had, and they really nailed it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Now, the thing that's interesting to me about Imagic stuff was, unlike the Activision, actually Activision had them a couple times too, but the fact that there were some games that they did for Intellivision that didn't come out for the 2600. Right. They did a lot of those things. And also another thing that was interesting to me is the fact that the Intellivision version was very different than the Activision. So like, when I remember we were taking a look at Dragonfire, for example, I was like, whoa, this is very, very different. Yep. You can see different, like kind of like the writing prompts thing you were saying. It's a different same prompt, different output. Yeah. It's like someone just took the design doc and went, sure, I can make that. And they came up with something completely different.
And you hand it to two different people. Yeah. And they come up with neighbors to each other, but definitely not the same game.
And Demon Attack looks very different. Yeah. It has a different background and stuff. And, maybe the soul is the same, but it's a very different game. And
it's one of those ways that I almost missed that from the previous generations of games, where each console kind of had an identity, because even if games did come out on both, they would be different. And sometimes, in some ways, both versions would be better than the other in unique ways.
Yes.
And now everything comes out on everything. And that's part of the reason I love the Nintendo Switch so much, is that that's one of those consoles that still has a very steadfast, it has an identity. Mm-hmm. It has games that aren't out on other things, that uses its system limitations to give you a unique experience. Mm-hmm. Whereas, even the exclusives on some of the systems nowadays,
it's they don't have to be exclusive. It's arbitrary.
They didn't need to be. Yeah. The other system would render this
and bureaucracy stuff reasons.
And now it feels like it's like, oh, you can only watch this movie on a Samsung TV. Yeah, I know that's not really what it is, but it feels just as arbitrary. Like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, but you're right. Going back to even as far back as say I think that they started to converge really when the hardware started getting to be where it's a good point. Like if you look at PlayStation 2 versus Xbox 360 or Xbox, I guess at that point. They were functionally equivalent at that point. They did have the hardware at that point.
Things started to reach parity.
Yeah, exactly. But before then, if you look at, and there were some that weren't even hardware parity, it was the companies decided to do something different. For example, Mortal Kombat. If you look at Mortal Kombat on Genesis versus Super Nintendo, the blood versus no blood thing, and it's like Sega does what Nintendo don't, thing.
Sure.
And it was interesting because Yeah, because usually it was like, you're in one camp or the other. It's like, oh, well, this version of this game was way better than this version. Now, granted, that generation, they weren't that much different. It's really hard to look at a screenshot and know, but,
right.
But going further back and further back, definitely, you could definitely see a difference, between them.
And it is. In some ways, it's good, right? Because everybody's getting a slice of something that is, we can all share it together.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like you don't get unique experiences that make it worth playing multiple versions of a game. If you play a game on Xbox, there is no reason to play it again on a PlayStation nowadays.
No.
But back in the day, there were reasons to do that.
Now, I would venture to say that there might be versions to play it on a PC. Because the controls are different, hardware is better in a lot of ways if you have a high-end PC to be able to crank up the frame rate and all that.
And to be fair, nowadays it is that kind of stuff. But back towards PlayStation 1 and 2, a lot of games that came out on the PC were also fundamentally different than their console equivalents.
Sure.
And not until years later did those console versions get ported over.
Yeah.
I know this is a silly one, but one of the ones that stands out to me was SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom.
Okay.
Is a 3D platformer on every console.
Except?
But on PC, it's a point-and-click adventure.
Weird.
It's totally different in almost every It has a similar plot.
Right.
But it's like, that is weird and not necessarily great if you only had a PC and wanted to play a platform at the time.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about the fact that that's a unique experience, thusly, that would make it worth I've played Battle for Bikini Bottom.
But have you played that?
But have I played that? No, I haven't. Maybe I'll try that.
Another good example of that is portable versions.
Oh, yeah.
All the Game Boy versions.
Those used to be totally different.
Very different. It could be the same game, but a very different adaptation of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when they got to Game Boy Advance kind of layer, then it was okay, they could kind of do similar stuff.
But similar to the older generations. But if a game came out at that time in 2000 whatever for the PlayStation 2 and the Game Boy, it was you could buy both of those games and have totally different.
Yeah, because that's going to be way, way, way different.
And you might have fun with both because it's this is totally different, but it's more of what I want because it's the characters I'm interested in or the things. Whatever, you get what I mean.
Yeah. But I mean, it is kind of an interesting, I guess, talking point on the whole differences between versions on different consoles.
And I will say, just to kind of wrap it up, that I think something that really speaks to Imagic's quality is that this conversation is a unique one to have about the creativity of making these different versions and stuff. And Imagic could be synonymous with creativity in gaming, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They put out some of the most unique of this console generation, and I think that their presence is missed in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I think that they have an indie soul that carries on into people who make things like, your modern day Undertales or other such indie games like Hollow Knight and whatever, where it's I just want to make something that is cool and creative. Mm-hmm. And these things make me feel that same kind of way.
Yeah, I agree. I think at this point, they had kind of gotten over the major hurdles with the hardware because, the advantages that the third parties had was the fact that they came out later than Atari. So they had already been veterans of programming on this machine. So I think at this point, they were able to go, instead of just saying, what can I make? What do I want to make at this point? And they had enough knowledge to be able to actually make at least most of the way of what they wanted to make. Yeah. And that I think speaks volumes on some of these games that are very different than a lot of the stuff that came before.
And just kudos. Yeah. Really, truly.
All right. Well, this was a longer one. Thanks for staying with us. If you're still watching, really appreciate it. We will see you in the next adventure. Take care.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of this kind of content, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. I post new videos all the time and I wouldn't want you to miss any. If you'd like to see more of this series, be sure to click up here. And if you'd like to see something else, be sure to click up here.